Okay, in this video, we'll continue our discussion of AUC Section 300 for planning and audit. And for this particular video, we'll be discussing determining the extent of involvement of professionals possessing specialized skills. So sometimes in our audits, we run into very complicated areas that potentially we need to bring in someone who is an expert in that particular subject matter to help us to understand the effects on the financial statement. So since we're in the planning stage of the audit, we need to determine whether we need such a person. And that person could be at our firm, or they could be an outside professional, so someone that's not at our firm but specializes in that sort of thing that we can pay them to help us in the audit. And so, in order to do that, we need to make sure that we have sufficient knowledge to communicate the objectives of what we want that specialist to do. We also have to have enough knowledge to be able to evaluate whether the procedures that that specialist is going to do meet our objectives, and then also have enough knowledge to evaluate the results of the procedures applied and the nature, time, and extent of further planned audit procedures that that professional possessing specialized skills will do. So if it does turn out that we need to bring in someone who's a specialist, for instance, a good example of that might be if we have level 3 investments, for instance, if there's not a public market for the types of investments that the company has, maybe we need to bring a specialized person to come in and value those securities for us if we have to present them at fair value on the balance sheet. Also, maybe there's a potential for an impairment of goodwill, and we might need to bring in someone who specializes in that sort of thing and would be able to value the goodwill and to help us determine whether there's an impairment. So those are just a couple of examples, but there are many possibilities where we might decide that we need someone who specializes in that sort of thing to bring into the engagement team. So we've got a lot of, or just a few explanatory material sections here, A18 through A19. So let's go down there and see what they say about that. But also, we want to say here that if we do end up wanting to use a specialist, then we would use AUC Section 620 for the procedures in order to be in compliance with GAS. Okay, so let's go down to the explanatory material. Okay, so now we're done in explanatory material. We see here that we may decide to seek the assistance of a professional with specialized skills in order to complete various aspects of the engagement. And so those professionals could be valuation experts, appraisers, actuaries, tax specialists, anything for which there's a specific discipline for that area. For instance, we might bring on an IT specialist to help us understand the IT controls as well as the IT platforms that the entity uses, and so that we can design and perform tests of the IT controls. So they provide an example of using this IT professional as our specialist. We've got a list of things here that we can consider when we're determining whether to bring this person onto the engagement team. So we might consider the complexity of the entity systems and IT controls. So if they're more complex, then we might want to bring on the IT specialist. And this is just an example. This isn't telling us that we have to bring on an IT specialist to help us in the audit in every engagement. We just use our professional judgment to consider these things on whether we should bring on something like that. And we'd also consider similar things if we were to bring on an appraiser or an actuary or a tax specialist, etc. So another thing we might consider is the significance of changes that were made to the existing system. So if they made a bunch of changes and we, as engagement team members, currently don't understand the systems enough to understand the changes that were made, maybe we bring on an IT specialist. Also, the extent to which data is shared among systems. So there's more data, it's more complex, maybe we bring on someone to help. So there's other situations here. It's just, logically, the more complex the system is, the more reason we might have to bring on an IT specialist, and that includes valuation experts, actuaries, tax specialists, etc. If there's more complexity that we don't understand or we're not particularly skilled as an engagement team, we might bring on someone to help us in those areas. And now they list here some of the things that we might have this IT specialist do for us if we bring them into the engagement team. So we might assign them to inquire with the entity's IT personnel, how the data and the transactions are initiated, authorized, so on and so forth, and how the controls are designed. We might also have them inspect the system's documentation. We might also have them observe the operation of the IT controls, and also plan and perform tests of IT controls. So there's a lot of different things that we can have them to do. And like we said, if there's, and this goes for other specialists that we bring into the engagement besides the IT personnel, but we can have them do a wide range of tasks to help us along in the audit and to cover the areas that we're not as familiar with.